Hey guys, and welcome to a brand new video here on the View from the Crowd YouTube channel, and today we will be previewing the Styrian Grand Prix. If you're wondering where my sort of review for the Austrian Grand Prix last weekend is, that is on my blog page, which you can check out. So the format is I'll be doing my previews on here and all my reviews on there, and hopefully keeping up with both. It got a bit messy last year, but hopefully with reduced races I might actually be able to cope this season. But before I get into previewing this year's Grand Prix, we've got to talk about the big news is that Fernando Alonso will be driving for Renault in 2021. Now this kind of came as a surprise, but also not really. Fernando has been linked with Renault for, well, ever since Ricciardo announced that he was going to leave. And, yeah, he's gone and done it. He's somehow managed to wrangle himself a seat in Formula 1, which is absolutely insane. You know, I'm a big Fernando fan, always has been. He was my racing idol. You know, he was smashing it in Formula 1 when I started watching back in like 2005, 2006. So, yeah, I've got very mixed feelings about him coming back to Formula 1. I feel as though he did have his time, and you know, the way he completely sent McLaren down the pan with him, you know, demanding so much from the team and trying to be the sort of like the leader and everything, and that went catastrophically wrong. And now look at where McLaren are. Lando Norris has got a bloody podium. Two podiums in the last 3 races for McLaren. You know, that is insane progress. While Renault, you know, just about in the top 10, and you really think Fernando's going to come and change all that? No. I mean, he is a talented driver, yes, but I think Renault could have gone with so many better options. You know, the last person to come out of the Renault Junior program and actually get a drive for Renault was Jolyon Palmer. Jolyon Palmer was the last person to come out of the Renault Academy and get a Renault drive. So many drivers since then have not been able to get that. And it just looks as though Renault just want to keep signing. You know, they signed Daniel Ricciardo, they signed Fernando Alonso just in hopes that they can, you know, get like instant results, and it's just not working out for them. You know, I think personally Guan Yu Zhou would have been the perfect person to put in this car. You know, he's young, he's incredibly talented, he's doing brilliantly in Formula 2. He should have won the feature race if it wasn't for mechanical issues. You know, I think he would have been a much better choice than Fernando Alonso for the 2021 seat. Right, now let's actually get into the point of this video, which is to preview the Styrian Grand Prix, which is happening this weekend. And, well, I think we just can expect more or less the same as what we saw last week. Mercedes were dominant, and I mean dominant. They flew into the lead, and if it wasn't for the gearbox sensor issues that they were having, they would have romped that race. But, yeah, I don't have any real doubt in my mind that Mercedes aren't going to win this race unless Red Bull come up with some magic or something. I don't know. It's weird. It's kind of almost like it's like 99.9% certain that Mercedes will win this race, but that 0.1 is Max Verstappen and Red Bull, because, you know, the Red Bull does run well there, and we know that they have the pace to keep up with Mercedes. Max was doing a fairly decent job on those medium tyres until his engine issue. So if, you know, Red Bull were to stick to the normal strategy of going from soft to hards rather than medium to hards or medium to softs, probably most likely medium to hards. But what difference would it make? I don't know. There's a good chance that Red Bull could pose a threat, but yeah, they're going to have to think seriously about their strategy. I think over pure race pace it could be, you know, that little bit more difficult. As for Ferrari, expect more or less the same in qualifying. They said they have brought upgrades forward for this race, you know, because they were planning on this big upgrade package coming in Hungary. I think they've brought some of those upgrades forward and brought them to this race, but apparently none of them are going to affect their straight line speed, which is absolutely dead at the moment. They have no straight line speed, and well, none of the Ferrari engines do, because, well, they built a legal engine now that, well, doesn't produce anywhere near the amount that the Mercedes does, and potentially even the Renault engine or Honda. You don't know at the moment, but it's possible that the Ferrari engine is actually the worst on the grid at the moment. We saw Alfa Romeo and Haas struggle, and most likely those teams are going to struggle again. Haas had their brake issues. That's something they might want to fix. Their brake-by-wire system completely failed on them last weekend. So that's going to be a main focus. But seeing them get out of, Q3, Q2, it could be very difficult. Same with Alfa Romeo. Maybe, again, behind the Williams of George Russell. But it's going to be another tough weekend for all Ferrari-powered cars. It's just that lack of straight-line speed. You've got 3 long straights, 3 DRS straights. You're going to need all the power you can get, and that Ferrari engine just doesn't seem to be able to produce that much. In terms of the race, we saw, Ferrari do very well in the race. And there is potential that, even though they might have a poor qualifying, that they could still get a good result and get some decent points. Because their race pace didn't look too terrible compared to the likes of Racing Point and McLaren. They were only just off them. But whether or not they're going to be able to... Because how much I would love to just sit here and compare this race with last race, I can't, because last race was crazy. So much happened. It was a race of attrition, cars flying off everywhere. If that happens again, then yes, there is a good chance that Ferrari might get on the podium. But if it isn't, and it's just a normal, bog standard race, you can't really count Ferrari in the mix to get a podium. I think it's going to be between the Mercedes and the Red Bull. But going a little bit down and to McLaren and Racing Point, I expect their battle this week to be very interesting. I think Racing Point would be disappointed with what they did last weekend. I don't think that race was a pure testament to the pace of their car and what their car is, capable of. Lance had his engine issue, and Perez lost out at the end just because he was on older tyres and everyone was on fresher tyres. It was a bad strategy call from Racing Point, and I think they'll be looking to sort of just finally tune their strategy and making sure that they're doing the right thing at the right time next race. But as I said, it could be a big point scoring for Racing Point this weekend. They're going to be chasing down McLaren for 4th in the championship this year, potentially 3rd depending on how Ferrari do. But, McLaren got a huge haul of points. 3rd, fastest lap, and 5th. That's big points, especially with this reduced season where every single point matters. So Racing Point will definitely want to get a good result. Hopefully engine issues are fixed for Lance and he can be that bit more competitive, and Sergio can just do what he did in the last race, because he was doing absolutely brilliantly until the team just made a bit of a bad strategy call. Now go on to sort of AlphaTauri. They weren't amazing, but they weren't terrible. Pierre Gasly had some good pace in that car, was sitting comfortably in the top 10 for most of the race. I think they'll be hoping for a better qualifying. Maybe getting the car into Q3 is probably going to be their goal for this weekend. Whether it's possible or not, I'm not too sure. It's just that sort of bottom half of the top 10 seems a bit crowded with the likes of, the Ferrari, the McLaren and the Racing Point all got amazing pace. And even maybe Daniel Ricciardo or Esteban Ocon in the Renault may just be able to pit them. So they're going to be looking to get as high up the grid as possible, because that's going to give them the best chance of points, especially with the sort of the amount of competition that they've got now in that midfield, and especially for that lower end of points. So I think if they don't, I think their goal should be to get into Q3. If not, they really need to be pushing for that, 11th, 12th, just behind the points, fresh tyre option at the start of the race, see if they can maximise that in the beginning stint, and then hopefully be able to keep that pace going and just sort of ride it out until the end. For Renault, they'll be definitely looking for a better weekend. Esteban Ocon was well off the pace in qualifying. It's his first race back, so you can't really blame him, but he'll definitely want to come back flying. You know, this is not a race that is and a track that's new to him. He does know this place. He's raced there many times. Needs to sort of hit the ground running and get either a very high Q2 or potentially Q3 spot. Daniel Ricciardo just needs to kind of do what he did last race. You know, he got into Q3. It's a good starting place for Renault, especially when they don't quite have the pace. They seem a little bit off compared to the rest of the midfield. But, yeah, and then just try and drive a good, comfortable race and hopefully get some good points. Same with Ocon. Points is definitely a must in this race. Now let's go on to the back. As I've already mentioned, Haas and Alfa Romeo is going to be a tough race for them. You know, that Ferrari engine's not delivering the power that they need, and their cars aren't brilliant. Yeah, Alfa Romeo, they were having a sort of semi-comfortable race. Their race pace was definitely a lot better than the quali pace, but again, they were just making the most of all the cars retiring around them. It was good points for Antonio Giovinazzi last race. Will he be able to replicate that? I'm not too sure. Yeah, especially if there's less retirements and less chaos, it's going to be tough for Alfa Romeo to score any decent points in this race. I think, as I've said about other teams, that midfield is so crowded, and I don't think they have the pace to really challenge for it. Same goes to Haas. For last year they brought a decent car to that race. It was just the tyres, the issues with the tyres. I think they sort of fixed that, but they just don't have the pace anymore to sort of keep up. But I think they'll be definitely hoping to qualify better than 17th and 18th, and maybe get solid Q2 rather than just not qualifying well at all. Now on to Williams. George Russell did an amazing job in qualifying to get his car P17 and so close to getting a Q2 spot. I think George will try and find those extra few tenths. It's just getting back to feeling the car. I think he's going to be able to adjust, maybe find a few tenths, and maybe find himself in Q2, which would be amazing for Williams. I think that would be a real achievement. I expect Nicholas Latifi to be a lot more on the pace this weekend. It was his first race. He had that crash on the Saturday in free practice. I think it knocked his confidence a bit going into qualifying. But now he's got another weekend, and I think with a weekend under his belt, and but now back at the same track, he can really attack it. And I think he can really do well in this race, and I think he could potentially, keep up with George that a little bit better, because he's a talented driver. And yeah, it's his rookie season, but he is very talented, and I think he could do good in this race. Maybe not be the almost a second off George in qualifying. I think he can do a lot better. He just needs to attack it more, believe in himself a bit more, and I think being at the same track and allowing him to have that second go at it is going to give him more confidence, just to push that a little bit more. So yeah, that's my preview for the Styrian Grand Prix. Yep, same track, same place. Yeah, it's weird because you think you know what's going to happen, but because of that race, it was so crazy that you really don't. But if I was to pick a podium for Sunday, I'm going to go Hamilton to win the race, Max Verstappen second, and Bottas third. Bottas had a great race, and he always does well around Austria, but Hamilton definitely has a point to prove this race, and he doesn't want to be like in pioneer the championship. And I think Red Bull could do something special with that car and maybe challenge Mercedes a bit more, but I don't think he'll have the pace to win it. So guys, thank you so much for watching. If you are new to the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button below, hit the bell notification for all the new videos that I'm going to be putting up. Probably a lot of F1 videos at the moment, just because, well, we're in a triple header and this is just all a bit manic at the moment. But yeah, make sure to hit the bell icon to keep informed of any time that I do upload. Also, make sure to follow my blog post. I've been writing loads on there. I think I've been doing at least one a week for like the last 7-8 weeks now, and I even did 2 in 2 days, which were impressive. And if you want to check out my review for the Styrian Grand Prix, it will be on there, so make sure to follow so you know when that will be out. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like this video, make sure to leave a like. My name's been Louis Edwards. Thank you.